of the things that I love the most about PodPlus, I was thinking this morning, like, what has been the best thing for me? How would I describe it in one word? And the word I came up with actually was curious, because I feel like everybody just turns up with so much curiosity, to learn, yeah, a bit from us, but also from each other, and you all share your curiosity so brilliantly. So that's why I always like asking those questions, because I know there will always be some things that I've not read, watched, and listened to before. So this week's podcast was on thinking together as a team. And if you haven't seen it, there is a useful CIPD report on high performing teams, where they have looked at the characteristics of a high performing team and what has the most impact. And I was re-looking at it this morning, and there are some of the language is not always as friendly, perhaps as it could be. It does take a bit of figuring out, but there are some useful diagrams where they show weighting, like how much weight would, for example, one of the ones is learning together as a team doesn't actually have that much impact on performance, but talking together about goals as a team has a much higher impact on performance, which sort of makes sense, right? Because your performance is going to be very goal based. I also put it into ChatGPT, so it is worth doing that, or whichever AI you choose, to just ask for summaries, just to see what it kind of comes back with. I also then asked it to change the language. I said, oh, can you put this into words that my 8-year-old would understand? And actually, I found it much easier to interpret when I did that. So you may not need to do that, but in case that is helpful, might be worth doing that. Oh, has my screen just come down?
It has come down.
Ah, you know, and you're like
A little bit of a tech.
in the final
we're
one.
just reliving everything from
Just
PodPlus.
reliving the last
challenge.
3 years, 4 years.
No, I think we started in 2020, pandemic times. So
it would have been pandemic, wouldn't it? So
yeah, I tried to clock up how many minutes. I was like, on average, I reckon we've done 40 PodPluses a year, if you account for like holiday and times when there's been a clash, 30 minutes a time. It's about 6,000 minutes of learning that we've done as a community. It's nice.
Sure. No,
Okay.
it's like a weird number.
Is that not a very meaningful metric for
No.
you? Like, and
Yeah. We'll move past that one. So one of the things, the reason that we did thinking time together as a team is in that CIPD report, it is one of the things that makes a difference to performance. And actually, I've been reflecting on it. I think sometimes I have been in teams that have done a really good job of thinking together. And other times, actually, it's really easy, you know, for everybody to individually just get on with what they need to do. And I think we fall into that trap sometimes. You know, we're a team where we're not in the same place every day. You're a small team. Everyone's got lots to do. I don't think that necessarily means just because you're small, you have a lot to do. Big teams have lots to do. But almost making the time and space to think together, it has to be very intentional. I don't think that just happens, or certainly not for us, it doesn't just happen. And I was actually thinking, oh, it is nice that in the last PodPlus, Helen gets a matrix on screen.
We are cramming everything together. I love it.
She loves the Matrix. So I wasn't even going to put it in, and then I was like, oh no, because I know Helen's coming. I'll put it in for her because I know it will make her happy. And so this was the Matrix that Helen created when we were thinking about almost what kind of thinking might you do based on what's the problem you're trying to solve. Because actually having some sort of go-to approaches, I think, is quite helpful. So we were talking about if you need to make improvements and you have got a bit longer together, this is where we've used before what's not working. So these are, what are the knots that we've got? Almost shared knots. So that could be ways of working knots. That could be we've got a knot around a goal that's important to us, but we're not making progress on. So I think these need to be shared knots because we sort of have our own individual ones, but it's like shared knots where something you kind of go, but together we really want to kind of explore like what could we do differently. So that often I think works quite nicely when you've got a bit more space together. Everyday improvements. This has become part of Amazing If sort of words and ways of working, which is what's on your worry list. And we did say on the podcast, it actually still always surprises me, even what's on Helen's worry list. And we do know, you know, we are sort of living in and out of each other's lives a lot. And yet Helen will sometimes say, the top 5 things on my worry list, it's usually on a WhatsApp message, ... And usually the crossover between my worry list, I would say, is 50%. And so actually me seeing that is really helpful because sometimes it's just like, well, how can I help? Do we create time to talk about this together? Is it just about kind of knowing it and actually maybe listening to Helen like talk about that worry a bit, and then maybe actually even knowing that it's not on my worry list might be reassuring for Helen. So there's no kind of right answer there, but I do think knowing what's on each other's worry list, just creates more empathetic teams, but also then you can start to do the so what now. Is it on your worry list, but we're fine with it? We're going to live with the worry, or is it an action? Sam, something you use your manager, but you just don't call it that. Yeah, I mean, you'd have to check if it feels okay to use those words. But you've got a 70 to 80% overlap. Okay, I'd say that is quite reassuring. B, that's a really good question. Do you
I
end
think
up
I
with more
do.
worries? Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
100%. Every time but I don't think that is a bad thing. I don't think you necessarily I don't necessarily adopt Helen's worries, but I do then, I sort of then go, well, if it matters to Helen, it matters to me.
Yeah.
I suppose that's the kind of the way that I think about it. So it doesn't make me more stressed, interestingly. I don't go, I'm now more stressed as a result. I just think, oh, okay, you've gone from not knowing to knowing. Because before it was,
Yeah, I think if
don't
anything,
know.
I feel a bit more connected. Either if I know what Sarah's worries are, or if I've shared my worries, I'm definitely not expecting Sarah to solve them at all. But I feel a bit more connected just because I've shared them. And I think actually
Yeah.
not being isolated with your worries is one way that you kind of are able to sort of improve upon them. You know, when you hold them in your head, they can feel kind of bigger
Yeah.
and messier and harder to manage. Yeah, 100% B.
Yeah, I think even we've talked before about things like to think lists. You definitely also just create clarity, I think, even from writing them down. Now, probably even better if you're writing them down with the intention to share them, because this is about thinking together. But even getting them out of your head, the back to your head is for having ideas, not for holding them. I think your head is also for having worries, but not for holding those worries. Keeping those to, I think B was saying there, keeping them to yourself does make you feel quite alone. I think the worries just kind of get bigger. Here we were talking about kind of everyday inspiration, team thinking together. This was borrowed brilliance, which we've already done some of today. And I think this is just making sure that you escape your silo, that you kind of don't get stuck in the same ways of thinking about things and approaching different things. And anything you can do to sort of add that into your habits as a team, always a good thing. And then inspiration. So if you're trying to do things where you're like, this is about ideas, maybe more creative thinking. I know loads of you like Curious Acts for Creative People, Sarah Steinberg's book. Sarah's been on the podcast too. And we do use that Crazy Eights technique, which we've done before in PodPlus, where, it's just like really quickly, just like generate some ideas. Just see what you come up with, make them really visual. Casey, you're saying you find it hard to get your team to contribute. They're quite quiet. That's interesting. Maybe sometimes giving people the chance to write things down first, that brain writing approach. That can kind of be really useful. Sarah's book is called Creative Acts for Curious People. It's a really practical book, like Helen's showing it there. It's quite a big, like textbook style, but very visual. Those books come out of Stanford Design School. Stanford Design School also have, that I discovered in the last year, a brilliant range of small books that are quite specific. So one of them is on I've got a good one on data. Yeah, there they are. Look, and prototyping. They're really lovely. They're easy to read. They're well researched and they're kind of practical. So a bit like I'll always buy some Do Lectures books. I buy the small HBR ones and I always buy the Stanford ones, but the Stanford ones have been a newer discovery, in case that's helpful. So I was thinking, obviously, let's do some thinking together as a team. I see all of us as a team, whether anyone here sees themselves in that way or not. So I was like, this feels like a good opportunity. And so one of the things that we are thinking a little bit about at the moment is, how do we create a global squiggly career community? And we are version 1 of this. And I was thinking, okay, so what are the characteristics of this career community potentially? I was like, we'd always want it to be, I can't imagine us doing anything that wasn't useful. It's so important to us and it's so important to kind of what we stand for. We'd always want that community to feel, like this is the most useful community I'm part of. Like I would want everybody to be saying that. We would always want it to feel like I think PodPlus does, but this has been because of all of you, not because of us, and certainly not intended by us. I always think PodPlus feels like a conversation. It feels very community led. Everybody feels sort of involved, which is quite different to some of the other things Helen and I do, where it wouldn't feel as involving as PodPlus does. Everybody here has something to add, and you're all really curious and you're all learning. So I actually don't know if community led is the right word, but what I was trying to get to was, you know, like everybody's equal, everybody contributes, everyone's very much kind of involved and part of it. So that was where I was trying to get to. And a practical thing, we probably want it to be free or very low cost, because our mission is to make squiggly careers better for everyone. And so we always want to have something that we don't want to create barriers. So I would never want kind of cash to be a barrier to getting big, to be able to get involved. So question for all of you, what have I missed? What do you think is important about, if we've got this ambition to create a global squiggly career community, what have I missed from that list? Or let me know if you disagree, if you're like, oh, I'm not sure you've got that one right actually, or I would challenge you on that one to kind of think a bit differently. I'll keep writing some of your thoughts up here as well. Yeah, nice. So Katie's saying like interactive. Social's a really nice word from Jamie there. Lovely, Sean. Love that. Something about being like comfortable. You know, like it's okay to be like, oh, I've not heard of that before, or that's new to me, or I've not thought of that. User friendly for everyone, open to experiments. Oh, love that, Steve. Obviously, we'll be saving this chat and stealing with pride all of your brilliant ideas. Welcoming a sense of belonging, meeting, yeah, real for some conference together. Yeah, so some sense of connection, that perhaps there's something live, maybe this is what one of the things I think people quite like about this is like we are all here together. But we've never been brilliant at what happens in between. We've never got that right yet. If it is global, as somebody is saying, we've got to think about like different people in different places. Opportunities for in-person, yeah, limitless and practical content, how to break down barriers, yeah. And obviously you've got, I mean, I experimented with some AI the other day that instantaneously turned what I was saying into about 5 different languages. And so some of those barriers that might have existed when we started PodPlus, I don't think they quite exist anymore. They might not be perfect, but there is some technology that I think might help us to do this. Free or low cost does feel important. Thank you, Jamie. Yeah, that's good to know. I'm never quite sure what people kind of want to do around that, but that's certainly our starting point. So yeah, that is good to know. And I'm interested to know from all of you, other than PodPlus, what's the best community that you're part of? So is there a community that you're kind of part of that you like? And again, in any part of your life, kind of what's the best community, and obviously what makes it so good? So my example is, I was thinking I'm in a community it's just called Futures, and everyone in that community actually won the same award. But that's almost not what's most important about that. It's that everybody shows up and they are incredibly supportive and empathetic. You know, people helping people, how we describe networking, it just shows up in this group. And they do a mixture of WhatsApp stuff, but they also do live events. People also put some quite vulnerable questions in that group. And I think because they know they are guaranteed to get support in return. And so I'm not super active in that group. I'm sort of there and I try to help along the way. But I'm sort of so proud to be part of that group, because how they all show up for each other is really inspiring. So that would be my example.
There are
The
some very
gardening
lovely groups
community.
in chat, like walking
Oh,
groups. I like the Greyhound owners group. Sounds like
Greyhound owners group. Sweetest, most supportive community. It's interesting, that word, like supportive. Yeah, really passionate readers, Katie. Yeah, yoga community, school of facilitation, Rachel.
we already know about Lucy's amazing estate WhatsApp
I
group.
do,
Lucy lives
yeah.
on this road. Lucy works for Amazing Earth, and she lives on this road. I've never seen such a good community. They have like yeah. Anyway, it's a thing to aspire to. I'm like, I'd love to live on a street that was that supportive. Very impressive, Lucy.
Spun out from HR Ninja. Ninjas, Talent and Leadership Club. That sounds good, Kimberly. That's a new one to me. Great sharing, free events, speakers. Yeah, customer success community. Met some friends there. Yeah, that's always kind of really nice. I think when I think about a few communities I've been part of, those people often do become your friends. You know, it goes almost way beyond the community. Interesting. Super supportive.
Oh, Lid's picking community.
That's nice. Mentoring groups to help students. Okay. And if you were thinking, if we were saying now, there are no constraints and no limitations, so sort of the opposite of Adam Morgan's thinking. So some of you will know beautiful constraints, where you go, there's a constraint, and so how do we think creatively around it? If we were doing the opposite of that, if we were now saying, you've all chosen to turn up for PodPlus, lots of you really kind of committed to that. If we were now saying, okay, well, we could do anything. Nothing is off limits. There are no constraints, which I actually think sometimes is harder. What would you do to create a Squiggly Careers community? Or maybe you might say, well, I wouldn't. I would do something different. But what ideas have you got? This is almost you can give us now your Squiggly Career wish list. So give us your wish list. So Katie wants us to build a Squiggly University. Oh, that's tempting, Katie. There is actually a new university in London where I think they basically have built the Squiggly University. Regular in-person meetups. Yeah. Who's doing that? Well, Corporate Rebels. Some of you will know I did a program at Corporate Rebels. They do these, they are good to borrow brilliance from, these rebel cells, which are based in cities. I'm not sure how I feel about rebel cells, but that's the phrase that they use. And so based on kind of geography, people then meet up and they kind of do these like meetups. So as well as doing things virtually, they do it in that way. Squiggly on tour. I'm sure we must be able to do a bit of a tour maybe next year when the new book comes out, which we probably have told all of you about. You've probably seen loads of versions of that more than anyone else. Squiggly Festival of Sharing or Learning. Yeah, that's interesting, Lorraine. I think probably as well, because some of our stuff was so COVID based, previously that's probably what we would have done. And so yeah, do we once a year do, I don't know, a Squiggly Summer Festival of Learning? I think we could do quite a good job of that. More content from the community rather than just from us. Yeah, we don't really create loads of space for that. And as I said, I think everybody has so much to bring. Squiggly Awards to bring Squiggly companies together. Yeah, Squiggly Tours. We'd be very happy to come to France, Spain, and Germany. It sounds like interrailing, that does. That sounds like a holiday. Perfect. Squiggly masterclasses. Interesting. Online, more access. Yeah. Anything else? If you were thinking about your wish list, you can have anything to do with careers. After that, I think we're not quite as useful. Gonna keep you very busy, yeah. Okay. And your top 10 list of learning. That's a really good idea, Sam. Actually, particularly as you get towards like the end of a year, what are the top 10 talks, podcasts, masterclasses, newsletters. There's some brilliant newsletters out there now. Again, often can feel quite hard to keep up, can't it? So maybe us being better. Sometimes I think we've definitely had the feedback before that sometimes people find it hard to navigate everything that we do. And when we have done things to help people navigate, we always get really good feedback. So perhaps we could do a bit more of that. Like, well, here are our top 3 books or top 2 newsletters, masterclasses. Yeah, and those ones could be paid. And actually, Sam and Nick, that is how Amazing If started. So Amazing If started in 2013 with Helen and I turning up to a workshop once a month in London. I think it was £35, something like that. We just had to try and cover the cost of the venue. And then we just invited people who we knew to come, and I don't know, 20 people came or whatever. So that's the origins. That's the origin story of Amazing If. And we were in these arches, kind of old arches and tunnels in London where I guess the tubes or trains used to go. That's what we used to do on a Monday night. That was our Monday night for quite a few years. Let's organise a big conference. Squiggly Sync. I like it. Thinking together. I like the fact Raphael has already got a full name and subtitle for that event. So much out there, curating things. Yeah. Career development triplets for extra community time. Okay. And then fast forwarding, I sort of don't want to finish with us. I want to finish with all of you before we say thank you. By this time next year, let me know one thing that you want to be true for you. It could be to do with your work, could be to do with your life, could be to do with the role that you do. It can be absolutely anything, but we'll do a bit of mental time travel. because I can't resist getting in a few extra tools and techniques. So if we were doing a bit of fast forwarding, we're all back together this time next year. Maybe we're at the Squiggly Festival of Learning, I don't know, in Stockholm or somewhere. And we're talking about, do you remember that last PodPlus? And what's changed since then? Embedded in your new organization, Sam. Yeah, hired a few people. Yeah, we'll talk in a second about what's coming next. Career moves that feel meaningful, flourishing in a new role. Yeah. In a new job that you're really enjoying. Brilliant, Joe. Taking the next step in your career. A few people saying they wouldn't mind working for Amazing If. That's nice. It's always that's always flattering. Published podcast series that you've been slowly editing over the last few months, Steve. Exciting. Make sure you share that as soon as that's good to go. More confident with team leadership, more confident in your current role. Lots of you talking about lots of things to do with moves, making a move, or you've made a move, making the most of that move. Business continuity, teacher and mentor, enjoying a new role. Healthy, yeah, I thought there might be a few more personal ones here. Keeping to some health goals. I like that, Kimberly, with a fabulous team. I've just been watching a brilliant program called Alma's Not Normal, and she uses the word fabulous a lot, and she just says it in a brilliant kind of Mancunian accent that just works so well. Sub 1 hour 10k. I've prompted you a little bit about some of those personal goals. That would be good, Lizzie. 10k. I think my best ever when I ran a bit more was 59, about 59:30, as a non-runner. I completed your coaching qualification. Bringing into work all the teachings. Oh, brilliant. Great. Helen, one thing you want to be true by this time next year?
I would like Lobster, new book, to be resonating with people as much as Squiggly, so that people identify with it, they find it useful, and they're sort of talking about it without us needing to drive it so much. So I'd love that for Lobster kind of to catch as a way for people to learn at work.
Excellent. And do you want to talk about
yes, would you mind taking your screen down? Is that all right? And I can everybody, obviously we do want to close with a massive thank you for, I don't know, just being like, since we started this in 2020 PodPlus, we've definitely been on a massive journey. Like, our business has grown, like we've written another book. It's like so much has happened, and I really feel like as a community you are on the journey with us and invested with us, and it's really nice to have a genuine group of people who just want Squiggly to do well. And I kind of think, well, I just want Sarah and me to do well, and we also feel like us, like our banter and our coffee chats and all that kind of stuff. So thank you from us. In terms of what's next, so a couple of things. Obviously, PodPlus is going because we want to try and scale our impact and make sure that we're just kind of innovating and we're keeping evolving. So Squiggly Community Learning is not going anywhere. We're just going to try and do it a bit differently. We have Squiggly Careers in Conversation. So that is the fortnightly LinkedIn lives that we are doing. And we take your feedback about, it doesn't quite feel the same as PodPlus. We're going to keep doing them. Doesn't mean we might not do any Zoom stuff in the future, but we're going to keep doing them. They're going to happen every fortnight, and they're going to be quite guest-led. So today, for example, I'm talking to a guy called Chris Hurst about how to be indispensable. So that's today. We have got Christine Armstrong, who lots of you know, coming up. We're doing one on AI. We've got lots of different, so they're every fortnight. I think they're 12 o'clock. So that will happen. That's always a bit of learning that will always be free and hopefully interesting for you. We've got our next sprint coming up. So this is happening in September. It's for a week. It will be on there's 5 squiggly skills. So value, strengths, confidence, network, and future times AI. So how you can kind of go deeper, learn more when you kind of apply AI to the skills. So that's happening in September. And then we've also got in August, nice little series coming up, the Squiggly. It needs a better name. Should you have a better name for this? Let us know, because it's currently, I keep calling it the quote series.
Not calling it the quote series.
We're not well, I know, but when you keep saying it, it's also called Inspiration into Action, but it needs a better name. Anyway, it's a series of 4 episodes over August, so every Tuesday in August, where Sarah and I are going to take the quotes that have been meaningful to us in our career, things like run your own race, and we are going to turn that into a practical episode. So nice idea, but what do you actually do in your career to run your own race? Or never live the same year twice? nice idea, but what do you actually do to never live the same year twice? So we're doing that in August. So that's 3 things that are coming up. I would recommend that you sign up for Squiggly Careers in Action, which is our weekly newsletter. If you haven't got it, link is in the chat, because all the links to the sprints, all the links to free, it's all there. So please stay connected, keep learning, keep giving us feedback so that we can keep growing and getting better.